The 10 hottest board games of November. We're doing something different. Let's go. Because, you know what, we have to talk about the 10 hottest games. At the same time, though, what does Boardgamegeek say that they are? And how am I going to both agree and disagree? Let's talk.
Number 10 is going to be Ticket to Ride Northern Lights. This game isn't new. I don't believe it is new.
Why is it on the list?
Yeah, it's on the list. Okay, let's talk about Ticket to Ride Northern Lights.
Not entirely sure.
You're not entirely sure? This is just off the cuff? This is worse than my off the cuff. Okay, Ticket to Ride Northern Lights is on the list because Days of Wonder is bringing it over and getting a North American English edition. Not like they say here in a few seconds that it was only available in German or over there. It was available in Europe, mostly the Nordic countries. I imported it over from one of the Swedish stores, that's a tongue twister, and have been playing it with my kids. It is my favorite because it's a better version of the Nordic game than the 2 to 3 player previous one that was available. And I stand by that. But come on. Is it really on the hotness? No, I mean, we're halfway through November at the time of me filming this. Not on the hotness anymore. Is it really that hot? Or are we having other issues that we're bringing up here? Let's go.
From what I can tell, so Ticket to Ride Northern Lights is a Ticket to Ride standalone box set.
Excited. I've never heard about this.
Yeah, and so from what I can understand and why it popped in is because it's finally getting an English release, is what it seems like.
Right.
I think it was only available in Europe. Please let us know if we're wrong, but I think it was only
You're wrong.
available in Germany or maybe
Yeah, nope, that's wrong.
those countries.
Sure.
Those countries. How do you Europe people like being called those countries? I guarantee over here in the States, we wouldn't be like, oh yeah, you know, you Michigans and you peoples in the Midwest. I'd be like, no.
It's getting English release, English rules, all that kind of stuff.
It already has an English release over in those countries. It's, imported English already.
Next up is going to be Covenant. This is
Yes.
coming from DeVere.
It's got dwarves. It's all I care about.
It's got dwarves. You're
Exactly
in the
right.
mountains, and you were checking out mountains, Gandalf Mountains, and going around and just doing dwarf stuff.
Going around and doing dwarf stuff. You know, it's an area control worker placement style vibe over 3 rounds where you're digging, you're getting ores, you're placing your workers, defeating the enemies, reclaiming the halls of your own. Not just doing dwarf stuff.
Yeah, you're doing like
This I feel like has been like
It's popped
announced
in and out.
and sort of.
Well, if I
Yeah,
remember
like
correctly, it had like a cover that people didn't like, so they like redid a bunch of the art.
kind of designed.
But I think because
This is the slowest image fade I have ever seen. It just keeps on going and going and going.
people are playing it, it's gotten really good.
People are playing it. The image is still going, folks. Why are we seeing so much of this image and less of them?
Cool looks by DeVere, and I really like DeVere games for the most part. And I believe it's like worker placement, and you're kind of doing a bunch of different dwarvy stuff where you're like.
You're doing a bunch of different dwarvy stuff.
Number 8 was Bounce Around the Hotness. This is going to be Origin Story. This is
Yes.
a tableau trick-taking game.
Okay, it totally is actually still on the hotness, and this one should be on the hotness. Origin story from Stonemaier, the latest drumming up the hype, hitting on the Essen train because they played off of that convention totally. Still not available at a wide retail, a trick-taking game where you are a superhero, and you're getting sidekicks, and you're getting powers to break the tableau as you're trying to take these tricks over multiple rounds. Is it balanced? Is it unbalanced? Who cares? It's apparently just kind of fun. But if you're a fan of trick takers, it's not going to change your mind about what you like about trick takers because it's kind of what I've read and what I've looked at from a review standpoint, very introductory. However, if you're not a fan of trick takers, this isn't going to change your mind, and it may not be the one that gets you into trick takers either.
And yeah, this game has got this really cool look to it, first of all.
The
It's got
art
this
style is really, really kind of captivating.
almost
for sure.
anime-y, kind of.
Yeah.
Not really anime. It's cartoon-ish. It's Sentinels of the Multiverse. But the main concern I have is, how is the gameplay? Is it a great freaking game? Because that is what matters the most. Not that its artwork is really pretty. Really pretty artwork has been on really, really horrible games. see a lot of crowdfunding in general.
Next up is going to be Sanctuary. This is a follow-up to Arc Nova.
It is a follow-up Arch Nova, and this one also is significantly on the hotness. This is the more family-friendly version people are saying, but not really, because you can't go into this one thinking that it's going to be Arc Nova, because if you go into this one thinking it's going to be Arc Nova, it's going to leave you high and dry. It is much more of a tile-laying style of things that is still not going to give you the control if the main criticism of Arc Nova in the first place was that the deck of cards was the bane of your existence. I mean, yes, it's similar in the sense that you have 4 slots, you have 4 different actions you're be taking and manipulating in order to place these 135 different tiles that are at your disposal into the best zoo possible. It's going to be lighter. The iconography is heavy, and it's not always as easy as you may like to assemble all of these things. But, again, it's more like a route in the sense that if you know what you're going into, if you understand the vibe that it is throwing you, I think you'll love it. However, at the same time, if you go into it thinking it's Arc Nova, if you go into thinking it's going to be Arc Nova Junior, if you go into it thinking that if you liked Arc Nova, you will automatically like this, that is where the direct hit or miss is. I think it's more solid than the early reviews were sort of panning it, because a lot of people were playing it online and they were actually rating it really low. At first, when it debuted an actual rating, it was actually about 7.0 on BoardGameGeek, and at the time of me filming this right now, it's already up to, as I just looked at my iPad here, 7.6. So, do you care about that right now? How much do you take early indications? Because the early adopters for this game are going to be mostly the people that were going after it from an Arc Nova standpoint. And so, as that sort of peters out, and you see more even spread across the board of who is actually getting it, it's interesting to see that the rating is actually going up, because it means that the hardcores probably didn't like it. And then the general populace who are having a better sense of what it is in the first place when they actually pick it up are enjoying it more. Well, at least that's how I'm interpreting the statistics, but you can make statistics say whatever you want, right? Is anyone else looking at the top of this game right here? And it doesn't even allow for the word sanctuary to be written in one line. Look at that. SANCTUARY. You'd almost think this board game was titled Sanctuary. Seriously? Who designed that?
Next up is going to be Orloj, the Prague Astronomical Clock.
I covered this one for Essen. I've talked about this one. A unique worker placement game here from Peroloco. Well, I mean, it's kind of fallen off the hot list now that we're like a week to 2 weeks into November. It's already replaced. The Johnny What Have You Done For Me Lately snap and you're gone hype and hotness cycle just goes to show you when this video was actually done versus even 2 weeks later, it's not representative of what is on the hotness. It's just saying kind of what was on the very tip of the edge of the hotness at the beginning of the month. So this isn't really November's list. A better representation of what was the hottest in November might be at the end of November. That's a side tangent as a whole.
So hyped for this one. Super complicated clock that has, again, like tells time, but
The clock that tells time. Whoa!
tells like all this astronomy stuff. It's very
All the astronomy stuff. All those countries in Europe.
very
Alignment
old.
of planets and stuff. And yeah.
It's wild, but it's like this.
I'm not sure I'd describe it as wild. That adjective and heavy worker placement Euro-style games don't often go hand to hand. Whoa, I'm getting crazy wild moves here with my chess game. Not really from a strategic side of things. Unless you're Magnus Carlsen.
I believe it's a worker placement game, but it's like you're doing a bunch of Euro mechanic stuff. But again,
I believe it's a worker placement game with a bunch of Euro mechanic stuff. I'm sorry, like, you just said this was like your most anticipated game and you're unsure of the mechanics. Come on, give me some insight, give me some detail on something special about this game. Tell folks that are interested why this is so much separate, mechanically speaking, from the other ones that we're interested at hyped and at Essen or anything else from 2025. That is what is going to be helpful. And again, like, I can't. This is not my specialty. But that's what I'm looking for on the crowdfunding side of things. That's what I'm looking on the retail side of things. How does this fit in? What is different? Why should I get this? What should I be most interested in? What is this doing something different? Or we're going to pull up that list like I did earlier this year of the post-Essen Where Are You Now in 2025 from 2024. And you're going to find out that half of the acclaimed games that were in the top 25 previously aren't even in the top 25 a year later. And that's disappointing. And you know what? We got to be a little bit pump the brakes as well.
I don't recall what the next game is. Do you
Good
know?
bit, Mike. It's called Recall. Do you get it?
That was a joke. I get it.
This is sort of a spiritual follow-up to Revive. It's by the same...
I would agree with that. It's more of a spiritual follow-up in the sense that you have Eric Lang's trilogy, and each of those are subsequent spiritual successors in the area control vibe, and I would make the argument that it is very overarchingly in that sense to Revive previously as well. And so it's going to be very interesting to see, though, I think more akin to like a Dune Imperium Uprising, a Sleeping Gods Distant Skies, of which of these do you prefer, because they're doing a lot of the overarching mechanistic unlocks campaign style vibe as you go along with some continuation. And so is it going to be better potentially with a second time around? Or I guess the other conflict that could happen here is, though, you know, we talk about the spiritual successors like I just did with the Eric Lang trilogy. Are you actually going to have them be different enough that you can equally have them both? Like, you can have Blood Rage, you can have Rising Sun, you can have Ankh. Those mechanisms are significantly different, even though the overarching control is still the driving force behind them. But it means that if you haven't played either of them, if you haven't had any experience with any of them, give it 6 months. Give it 6 months and you will be able to find out which one overarchingly is a better fit for you. Like, every time the Dune Imperium Uprising debate comes up, you are able to get a clear, you know, what do I need? What is best for me? How is this going? Same thing with Sleeping Gods Distant Skies. This is slightly better here. This is slightly better here. We've seen the evolution of the mechanic here. And I have to say that this is going to be very, very, very much probably similar in that regard. So if you can hold off on hitting the dopaminergic rush of the put it in my cart style vibe right now of, you know, looking over your shoulder and trying not to think the grass is greener because somebody else has a game experience that you don't have yet, I would suggest doing so with this one.
Next up, I was already
Number
excited to
4.
play, but I'm way more excited to play it now. This is going to be the Old King's Crown.
Yeah.
This is all of the hotness, right?
It is all over the hotness, but that's mostly because Shut Up and Sit Down gave it a glowing endorsement as well.
I do know that the basis of the game is just like war.
It's a self-described card-driven game of conquest with asymmetric powers that's going to require multiple meta plays. This is a deeply engaging, bluffing sort of vibe game where you are managing your own little miniature ecosystem while also trying to area control the places in the board while dealing with pop-up gotcha asymmetric powers that you're not going to know the first time or two around. I talked about this game when it came on the crowdfunding. I hyped the hell out of this game on the crowdfunding, right? And there's plenty of games that I've talked about, but this was one of the ones, when it came to crowdfunding, I was very much like, you need to potentially own or play this game. But similarly to other games that we've already talked about, even in this video, you have to know what you're in for. Most of the criticism, when I saw like all the review threads pop up from, I think even No Pun Included, and also the previously mentioned Shut Up and Sit Down video, was that people are like, I didn't like this game. I played it once and I didn't understand what other people's powers were doing. Well, no S, Sherlock. This is a meta-evolving game. This is you need to learn what other people are doing, Root style of things. If you don't know what anyone else is doing in Root, it's going to be a horrible experience. And that was literally almost every single critique was, we played it once, we didn't like it because we didn't know, and it was too convoluted, blah, 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 blah. Like, this is not a typical hobby turn it around, rinse and repeat once every 6 months style of game. It's fantastic, though, if it's what you're looking for. The biggest downside, though, if you're looking at this graphic right now that they've got pulled up, is that there are so many keywords and sort of that dynamic of what does what, who has what, and how are you unlocking in this area control. Like I said, our number-driven, I win the battle over you style vibe. Winner gets the best pick of what's available on a round-by-round basis in order to score the most points. Does that sound like a fun game for you, though?
Nick, what, Michael?
If this hotness was based on our personal tastes,
It's number
this
one.
would be number one.
Yeah.
Forevermore.
Yeah.
It is the expansion first.
Seti Expansion Space Agencies, which just got released pseudo, at least in part, at Essen. And as potentially one of, if not the highest, most hyped, most well-rated game from 2024 in general, especially coming out of Essen from 2024, to piggyback off on the hotness to give you more of all of the good things that you want with Seti in the original base game, yes. However, again, it's sort of got an Arc Nova criticism style vibe in the sense that there's too many cards. I can't get the one that I want. I'm not blah, 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 having enough strategery control. Yeah, and I don't think this expansion is going to change things. Is it hot? Yeah. Is it a great game? I have no clue. I don't have a ton of interest at this very time, but it's one of those games eventually I'd love to be able to play to figure out if it's going to be too heavy for me, because I don't dabble on this level of strategic heaviness in general. But people are loving it, and people are grabbing this up like, well, hotcakes. That's an old phrase, but we'll go with it here.
Next one would be The Hobbit There and Back Again, because
The Hobbit There and Back Again. This is a roll and write style Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings game that got a whole bunch of how to play videos all hyped at once and kind of peaked on the hotness for that reason.
each one is a different roll and write.
I mean, it's a different roll and write, right? We did this with the Welcome to Moon, a lot of these other situationally based progressive roll and writes. We've seen at least half a dozen in the last year or two that are doing something similar. The main question that I have with this one is, again, separating out the gameplay from the IP. If this did not have the IP branding all over it, would you be nostalgic or interested in it in the first place? There's one or two text reviews over on Boardgamegeek that are actually kind of like, it's okay. It's an okay roll and write. It's fine, but it's not perfect, and it's not necessarily the hyped roll and write that's going to change your mind on roll and writes, or to convince you that roll and writes are awesome because this one is Lord of the Rings and it surpasses all of your expectations. So buyer beware, again.
And we'll keep with Lord of the Rings 4. This would be Lord of the Rings Duel of Middle-earth, the Allies expansion.
Yes.
With
The Allies expansion. In case you're not familiar, there's 7 different allies, both on the friends and foes sides of things. And basically what you do is you draw 3 at the beginning of the game, and you can use like 1 per turn if you have enough of the power tokens. The power tokens get randomly placed on the cards, and then you can use that as an additional modifier to potentially grab cards or not grab cards that you may or may not be interested in. You have an enter power and you have an exit power. Costs 1, costs 2. After you use the exit power, that card's gone for the rest of the game. How do you choose it? Which rounds do you use it? And is it worth it? Or especially when you're only drawing 3 of the possible 7, is it really that necessary? I have a copy. It's great for me. It's not going to be great for a lot of other people. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it adds something that the base game was missing in the first place. I'd love to tell you it's an essential expansion that I would never play without, but the truth of it is, I like it, but it's probably going to be too much, especially if you incorporate it all the time as someone who's not familiar with the Seven Wonders duel style of get your cards, make your little tableau style engine, and try and succeed on the ring track in one of the different ways, because it also doesn't change any of the end game scoring conditions whatsoever. So you might be better off, instead of spending the money to get this promo, getting some of the tile city promos in the Boardgamegeek store instead that are available there. It's the first expansion. Now, I'm not really sure if that's supposed to be what it's supposed to be saying, but I think wording is very important here. And the question really is, and even when this came out, I said, if some is good, more is better. If this raises a ton of money, if it's well received, guess what? You're going to see a lot more. There's a reason that Marvel United has had 3+1 DC. There's a reason we've seen 3 Nemesis games. There's a reason we've seen so many iterations of Zombicide. So if this is going to be well received, which I actually give them kudos for putting in a little pack, even though now the insert that is trash and can't even hold the game face up if you're not laying it flat down because everything falls out, it doesn't fit these cards either, so you might as well just toss that insert out in the first place if you haven't already, even though in theory it looks really pretty but doesn't actually work for shelf life if you don't have it laying flat. And as a small game, if you have it laying under anything else, it's not going to work and get smushed in the first place. So that's sort of their top 10 right now. So again, what else at the time of me filming this is in the hotness in the middle of the month? Eternal Dex has risen up to the top because they're getting a reprint from the Portland Gaming Collective, and this game is one of, if not the best game of 2025. I did my review at the beginning of the year because I was a crowdfunding backer. I said it was going to be good. I think it's going to be awesome. The problem is it's not going to be on anyone's top 10 lists because very few people were actually getting copies of it, because if you didn't get a review copy, you probably weren't backing it, and the retail availability has been next to nil, even though that's going to be coming a little bit more. Surprisingly, I'm really shocked that they didn't include Vantage on the top 10 as well of the month, because Vantage is getting the hype, the hotness, the clicks, and the hate. We've also seen several prominent reviewers, big ones and semi-big ones and artistic ones and across the board, saying that this is a good game for a lot of other people and not them, and they don't really like it and they're bored by it, and it only plays good at 1 or 2. That's not my words. I haven't played this. I have not a copy available to me whatsoever. And again, it's one of those where at some point I probably should to be able to try it and be able to tell you my own thoughts on it. But it's sort of gone full, board game circle jerk on us in terms of, it's the best game Stonemaier ever! Or maybe there was a Stonemaier selection criteria. You can only have one Stonemaier game in the top 10. But all of a sudden, the hype and the hotness has gone backwards on it. And I guess I feel like it's one of those games where it's sort of like a movie reviewer situation where people are like, this is the most artistic, this is so different, and you like it, but it misses the casual audience style of things. It's like one of those on Rotten Tomatoes where you see the critic reviewer score is like 90%, and the audience score is like 40, or even consequently, even slightly, like the reviewer is 50% and the audience is 100%, because sometimes as reviewers, you're like, oh, this needs to be different. I need to do something fine. That circle of whatever moons earlier this year that reviewers were like, this is so good. Wilmot's Warehouse, basically storytelling memory. This is so different. We haven't seen it. Just because we haven't seen it, just because it's different, just because it doesn't do a lot of other things that you've played previously, doesn't make me think that it should necessarily be that good in my mind. And so when people are saying it's not doing something dramatically different, or it's boring, or it's a solo game masquerading as a whatever, or you get repetitive repeats of over things that you do tons of times, who cares? Did you have fun with it? And that seems to be lost sometimes, especially on my side of things, because we have to conflate awesome mechanistic excellence with fun. And especially with other games that aren't even on the hotness right now because they've been kicked off in the form of like Hot Streak and Star Wars Super Teams, which I don't think has ever made the hotness, but even like Magical Athlete, you know what? Those are a hell of a lot more fun than some of these other games. I said what I said. Speaking of other Lord of the Rings games, since we've already covered 2, Fate of the Fellowship is still on there. I mean, it's going to stay on there for a while. This is an all-time great game. I stand by that. I just got my copy. I'll have a review out sometime before the end of 2025. Sweetlands from Chibukoya as their latest heavy game is also on there as well. I know next to nothing about that and how that differs, but it's sitting around as well in that sense. Vampire Lords, which is currently crowdfunding over on GameFound as an area control 15th century Romanian vying for dominance with asymmetric powers as you compete over 4 rounds with day and night phases, is doing really well with a couple 100,000 out of nowhere. So it was one of those games also that I said on my crowdfunding games to watch for the month, I called this as my sleeper hit. Again, not just saying I know what I'm talking about, but occasionally I actually know what I'm talking about in these situations. And then last but not least is Railway Boom, which all of a sudden just got a bunch of paid content showing up on Boardgamegeek from several of the biggest channels. And that is why it's clicking there as you're laying your tracks to revolutionize the Japanese railway industry in the Meiji era. And you can do that with network and route building and turn order auction for a 3.5 weight rate game. So that is truly what's on the hotness. And we have some other couple hangers on like Seti and Speakeasy and things along those lines. Arc Nova's still sitting around there. And so, we've got a few of those, but that is the hotness and that's what's going on. So let me know what you think. Peace out. Stay classy.